Hello, I'm Neal Cary, here to offer some help on Saint-Saëns Cello Concerto No. 2. Unlike the first cello concerto by Saint-Saëns, the second concerto is not very well known, rarely studied, and seldom performed. Partly, this is because it is more difficult than the first. To my knowledge, there are no edited versions of this work, and there are no ossias for those passages which are not idiomatic for the cello and are quite difficult to play. Included here are a few suggestions for practice, some suggested changes, and possible ossias. Fingerings and bowings can be taken from my video performance for additional help. While there are ossias for other concertos, including the first cello concerto by Saint-Saëns and even the Dvorak cello concerto, there are none for this concerto. Certainly, there are those cellists who will choose to play those difficult passages as Saint-Saëns wrote them to prove their mettle, but some suggested ossias here, I think, have musical merit in addition to making the music easier to play. My first suggestion is a simple one. It is to add an open D grace note to the first note of the solo. This idea is taken from the Maria Kleigl recording. Saint-Saëns wrote this. Adding the grace note sounds like this. I think the music sounds more powerful with the grace note. 5 bars after rehearsal 1, it helps to be aware of the distance between the first finger and thumb with each shift in the double stops. Starting with the pickup, you add a half step, you add another half step, you take away a half step, stays the same, stays the same. Eight bars after rehearsal 1, I suggest this fingering for clarity. Third finger on the C sharp, open A, first finger on the E, second finger on the G, and then 3, 3, 2, 1. It helps to greatly angle the hand here. Beginning 5 bars before rehearsal 3, the harmonic passage as written tends to sound flat and is difficult with the printed bowing. If you choose to play the passage with harmonics, I suggest doing the following. Slur basically by the 8th note beat, except for the second bar, hook and up bow, and slur from the open string. Then, like the first bar, however, I think this passage works better by shifting back on the A and D strings at the beginning and end of the second bar and keeping the bowing consistent. At rehearsal 5, Saint-Saëns wrote this. Which is quite difficult. The passage, as originally written, tends to drag or result in a slower tempo for the movement. Instead, I suggest playing double stops formed from the first 2 notes of each triplet. Use third and second fingers for the first double stop. Thereafter, use third and first fingers for the major sixth, second and first fingers for the minor sixth. In the music after rehearsal 8, Saint-Saëns wrote this. The slurring is difficult, and the result can sound a little bit like gargling. I suggest that the first note be played up bow and the next three notes be slurred on a down bow for clarity and ease of playing. At the end of part one, Saint-Saëns wrote harmonics sounding this way. I suggest that these notes be played solid instead. This suggestion is taken from the Clagal recording. The result is more singing. 3 bars before rehearsal 13, Saint-Saëns indicates that this arpeggio be played on the D string, implying that it would end with harmonics. I recommend this. Start with first finger on the D harmonic on the G string, and then stay in position until the last 3 pitches, which end 3, 1, 3. This suggestion is taken from the Clagal recording. The result is louder, brilliant, and more dependable. The 2 quasi-chromatic passages after rehearsal 15 have the same intervals with the exception of 1. I play B double flat, the second note, 4 bars after rehearsal 15 to make them the same. Six bars after rehearsal 15, Saint-Saëns wrote the following sextuplet passage. The passage, as originally written, tends to drag, result in a slower tempo since it is so difficult. Saint-Saëns' tempo indication of quarter equals 126 is conservative for most of the sixteenths and nearly unattainable for the sextuplet passage. I play 4/16 notes per beat instead of 6 by leaving out the last 2 notes of each beat. I think the movement works better with straight 16ths here and a faster tempo throughout. The sextuplets are difficult to hear over the orchestra anyway. My last suggestion is to play the last 3 4-note chords in the cadenza, arco, instead of pizzicato to make them more powerful. This idea is taken from the Isolist recording. So I hope that you enjoy playing this great but sadly neglected concerto.